Hey everyone, Christina Whiteley here, Realtor with Fabulous Homes Colorado, powered by Keller Williams Freedom. And this is Fabulous Neighbors of Colorado, where we feature local businesses and entrepreneurs. And today I'm so lucky I get to sit with Mike Rogers. He's the owner of MWR Enterprises. Hi, Mike.
Hi,
Thanks
Christina.
for having us in your awesome setup. We're excited for a tour later.
Yes, you
When
bet.
it came down here the first time when we first met, I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. So awesome. Well, thank you for having us over. So what services do you offer? Maybe the easier question would be, what services do you not offer? You kind of do a little of everything.
I do. My skill sets are typically in the digital realm as opposed to real world advertising. Like traditional advertising would be the plane flying by with a banner, or the billboard on the side of the road. It would be newspaper or something like that back in the old days. But I have seen this over the course of the last 2 decades where messages and communication is really living in the realm of the digital media. And so back in the late 90s, I started really delving into digital marketing.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's everywhere now. So you were very ahead of folks if you started in the 90s.
I had a vision.
Yeah, you sure did. You sure did. So, you have a book out, and I'm wondering, what is the tripod effect?
Well, that's a great question. So the book, for those people that want to contact me, it is privately sold at this time because I have a registered trademark
Right.
with the Patents Office for empowering entrepreneurs everywhere.
Okay.
And so it's going to be another 2 or 3 months where it's a waiting game
Yeah.
to see if anybody contests my use of, my phrase, and so my trademark. And
Yeah.
once that goes through, then I can publish wide open on Amazon
Okay.
and do some digital publishing of the book. But if
Great.
anybody wants a working copy of the manuscript, I'll be happy to share it to your viewers as well, thank you for getting together.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So what is the tripod effect? What does it mean?
Sure. Well, a lot like your camera crew here that has a tripod that's supporting the camera. It's basically the premise of there's 3 fundamental legs that make a company successful and sustainable as a business.
Okay.
And the first one, which I call to attention, is for research. Basically, it's a concept. So what business do you want to go into, and how many competitors do you already have to go into it? What I have found traditionally is you don't want to be the first person to market for something brand new because it hasn't been proven out by anybody else.
Okay.
So if you think in terms of the automobile industry, it took a lot of that to get the buggy whip salespeople out of business eventually, because they were converting people from the horse and buggy to an actual automobile, or as they called it, a carriage, which is what we now call today a car. Right. So for short. And so that's one of the things that I recommend, is that they do their homework. With 90% of all knowledge on the planet online, there's really no reason why people can't do their own diligence. It's not like you have to go to the library and go to purchase hundreds of dollars worth of specialty data, like the crisscross directory, that says, hey, these people that live here earn this much money, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So that's the first primary fundamental leg. And then the secondary is marketing. And that's my realm that I try to teach businesses to understand that you need to create a dialogue. You can't have a monologue. You can't be the worst first date ever. Mm. You need to present yourself in a way that shows you in your best light, and that you're in it for the long run, not this immediate gratification. Right. In terms of get a sale and really be obnoxious about it. So I show people it's similar to having a relationship with somebody where you create an awareness, and maybe it's you're humming something while at work and you catch their ear, so to speak, or it's something uh, that you say or do that puts you on their radar. And then from there, you begin to do some advertising, and advertising is, hey, let's kind of get dressed up for the occasion,
Yeah.
right? You know, that kind of thing. And then the last fundamental leg that I discuss is the I'm using the Pareto's principle of the 80-20 rule. And that is, why would you go through all of this research and all this marketing and all this advertising and not know how to sell something or present it in a way that serves the public, where you're able to show whatever their biggest pain points are and solve those problems quickly and easily. And then you don't have to show them everything at that moment. You just show them their biggest need. You know, so if I ask a business owner, what are they looking for? Well, they're looking for more traffic to their website. Really? I'm looking for more conversions, because I can actually take somebody and show them without spending an additional penny. If they just tweak out the messaging on their website, they can double their ROI with the same amount of traffic. Double. So
Man,
it's
that'd be
pretty
nice.
huge. So selling, and then if you look at the tripod that our audience can't see, but you'll see later, is you'll notice they have extensions.
Yep.
And so the fundamentals are there, and then there's additional extensions to each one of the fundamentals that I discussed. So it just gives them a better round knowledge of, hey, if you're thinking about going into a business, find something you really love, but that there's a market for, that you're not the first to market, because we don't need you to go into bankruptcy trying to figure out something that no one has ever figured out before.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Perfect. And then you're working on another book, or is it kind of delayed because of the patent thing?
Well, it's still a second book, yes.
Okay, awesome. And you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about that one too, because the first one is it's almost like I'm reverse engineering my approach to the market. With the first one, I went with what I know and what I love, and what I've culminated since the 80s as far as selling. And a lot of those, that's a great thing about a law. Like in science, it's like gravity, or when water hits 32 degrees, it's no longer wet. It's like either snow or ice or something like that. Proven principles or laws never change.
Right.
Decades in and out, there's just certain things that will not change. So I bring all of that to the tripod effect. One of the things that I'm a critical thinker about is, you know, beyond my immediate peripheral view of what kind of impact am I making? Am I just sucking up air and heat and drinking the coffee, or am I actually contributing something back to the planet?
Yeah.
And so, how many times when we grew up, we wish we could be the superhero? I think this is why we like those movies, because they will do things that we can't do.
Right.
Because either we don't have the skill set, or we're scared to death. We don't have the confidence, right, to stand up to the bully. And that's what I think about is, you know, in high school, I wish I could have broke up all these fights and all this hate and contain it and turn it around and make something better of it. But before I can do that, I have to start at the center. And the center is the mindset. Yeah. And so my research into this new book, it has a working title. It's kind of goofy, but it's The Oxygen Mask Drops. Now what?
Oh, that's good.
And so the metaphor of trying to help others, the first thing we have to do is help ourselves.
Yep, that's right.
And so what I do is I really peel back a lot of the science and the medicine and things. So I talk about the hormones and the mind and how the body, and you constantly have this conflict, and how you can finally identify what the conflicts are and what triggers them, and what we can do, what steps practically that we can take to say, I know what's going on here, and I'm not falling for it, so we're going to do something else. So I go real deep into the mind and the hormones and how they interact with each other, because the next thing we want to do is work on our health, and that's the body. And so you got to be able to offset the cravings and the laziness of, getting on a plan, because we know once we start, it's like any habit. It's, addictive, but it could be the right kind of habit.
Sure.
Once we take care of the body and the mind, now that really equips us for other things. Like we can work on our communication within our home, our family, our spouses, our partners. And then from there, we can work more on a level of our neighbors, our coworkers, people that, we work in the same business with, our customers, how we resolve conflict in the workplace, as an example.
Oh, that's huge.
How do we deal with, the service and manage those expectations so that you're not screaming at somebody on the other end of the phone just because they have an accent or they got a job that none of us would want to do in a call center, complaining about the 13 cents tax that you weren't foretold about on your bill.
Yeah.
I mean, just stuff like that.
Right.
And, and so when you have those kind of stressors, it goes back to, the oxytocin and the things in our hormones that causes what I got, which is, stress. And so it just can mess up your whole system. So if we get to that level, then the next thing would be trying to make an impact beyond even those borders, so to speak. If you think in terms of a bullseye, concentrically those circles expand, and there's borders around each one of those, right, as you get further and further. So if you're looking to make even a greater impact, whether it be in another country, like the Doctors Without Borders.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe that's not you because you didn't go to school to become a doctor, but you can write the check.
Yep, you can still contribute.
Right. And so what I wanted to do was show them how they can find a business that they could call their own, to get excited about. And if they do it right, they can scale it out, and then they get to the point where they can do some of those things. And so everybody's happier because you're able to help those in need, and it just creates an equilibrium where we can start healing some of the wounds of stupid stuff that we're hearing, which is so toxic right now.
Yeah.
I mean, guys can't talk to ladies in this space right now, this space and time. They're scared to death.
Yeah.
Because of Me Too movements, because of idiots from decades gone by, the way that they treated women without respect.
Yeah.
And so we have to mend this, because you're going to need people to champion this. And the last thing we want to do is cause strife and division. We want to pool our resources together, and then you have a louder voice. And then that's what's going to affect change. So whatever the agenda is, that's making things better, I want to help.
Right. Get rid of the negativity.
Yeah. So if I can teach others this mindset of basically servanthood, and then have the capacity to do those things, to carry them out, and not just make it a, man, I wish I could do something, to, no, I can, and I will.
Right.
Because I have the conviction, I have the passion, I have marketable skills, I can deliver on my promises, I can create raving fans, I'm ethical. Anybody, the guy you're talking to now is the guy you get as a paid customer.
Yeah.
Or the spouse that you get. I mean, I just think that you burn less calories if you don't have to wear all these masks.
Sure.
And so if that's where that book is going,
Okay.
to make a bigger difference.
Awesome. Well, I like that because we need a little change. So you do coaching too. How does that work?
So that's a great question. I've been coaching for a number of years in the corporate world, where I had individual teams
Mm-hmm.
and help to um, get the best out of everybody that we can, out of their potential. They may not realize that they're a diamond in the rough and that they feel like they're just a lump of coal, but it's like, what do they say? Coal turns into diamonds after a period of time and
Yep.
pressure.
Pressure. Yep.
And so if we can manage all of that and take them to a new level, all the better. And then about 3 years ago, I was headhunted by a marketer who was also online, very sharp guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, look, you really acquiesce to this level as a customer. How about coming on board and being the community coach for the entire thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wow, that'd be great. Because basically, I said, what would be my job description? And he said, just do what you're already doing, and I'll just pay you.
Nice.
And so I was like, all right, I welcome people in, and
Yeah.
I help to create a culture within the community where people felt safe. Imagine going to a school for the very first time. We don't have to imagine far, right? We've done it. And you just feel like you just want to disappear and blend in with the wall and the scenery. But if you can get people to welcome you and bring you in and point you to all the cool things like a guide,
Mm-hmm.
you feel safer to do the things that you didn't even think were possible that you could accomplish. And so on an international level, I was coaching over 1,000 businesses.
Wow.
Yeah. And the emphasis was on their marketing plan and improving their message.
Mm-hmm.
And so it finally got to the point after the first year, the gentleman that brought me on, his name is Aaron, and he and I outgrew one another. He made his million, and then he started hiring other people because he needed to scale out his business, and it
Yeah.
just went into a direction that I said, cool, but I needed to cut my own wings and spread them out
Yeah.
elsewhere. So that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years. And of course, I don't have 1,000 anymore, but I do have my base here in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
I've taken one of my favorite case studies is Lori Yakish, who is the owner of TPR Dog Training Incorporated. And she's kind of like, she's way 10 times better than the dog whisperer that you see on television.
Really?
Yeah, she can turn dogs around in one session, and then just build on that over a few more sessions. And the point is that she keeps dogs from being, euthanized
Yeah.
because of overpopulation at kill shelters.
Sure.
So if we can keep that home or dog in the home as part of the family, then it's great for everybody. It's a win-win. Yeah. So when I first met her, she had a website, and I'm sorry, Lori, but it was horrible.
Oh.
It was dated. There was stuff flashing like Vegas that was covering up buttons that said, click here to subscribe or call me. You couldn't see it.
Couldn't get through the mess.
Yeah. So she kind of saw a little bit, and I told her a little bit about my digital online marketing experience, and she goes, I'm going to take you on. And so she took me on back in 2016. She was ranking in the top 200 in Colorado Springs for a dog trainer. Right now, from week to week, because it hovers like stock prices, right? She'll be on 3 of the top spots for dog training Colorado Springs or dog behaviorist Colorado Springs, things like that, that people are actually searching. And she went from being a roommate with dogs to buying her own home within 2 years.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, so she gained or regained her independence, and the best part is that she didn't have to do any of the paid online advertising. Everything I did for her was organic. And when you're small and you don't have a huge budget for advertising,
Right.
that can make or break all the difference in the world. But at some point, you get to the point where, okay, I really do want to laser focus my message. And so now we're developing out an online training curriculum for customers internationally, where she's going to be way better than the dog whisperer. And then she is the brand, and she's affecting others on a much bigger scale than just herself. And so we're going to develop that course this year and get all of the footage, and I'll be editing it and developing the course online. And so that's just a joint venture that we decided to do to scale her business to the next level.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Really neat.
Yeah.
So where do your coaching clients meet you at?
They meet me online. So later on, you'll see in the footage, if we still have your attention, to see my podcast grade studio. Yeah. I technically got 3 studios in this production in my home-based operation. One is for photography, one is for videography, to do things here. The other is the podcast, which is audio. So you got pictures, you got sound, and then you got videos, which is the combination. And then I do all of the post-production at this moment, but later on it's completely, as the business scales, you just start hiring on talent to do those things and then help people at a greater scale. But we even my clients that are online, I mean, that live in Colorado Springs, we don't meet face-to-face like this. Yeah. We would log in at a specific time, depending on what is needed, either weekly or every 2 weeks. Okay. And we send you through a course curriculum that helps you to first identify who your best customer is. And then we identify the messaging, and we really perfect that. Okay. And then if they need other services, like their website is lacking, and they just need a complete do-over, right? Then I have a digital agency, a done-for-you agency that basically can build the sites to my specifications that work. And then once we get that done, if they need photography to freshen that up, we're here, right? So it can all be done in-house. If they need an introductory video at the top of their homepage to say, hey, welcome to this website. My name is blah, 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 and I specialize in solving problems in this realm for my customers. Down below, there's a place where you can actually see where we're located, our hours of operation, blah, blah, blah. So you're kind of like the Walmart greeter or Fantasy Island, where it's like, welcome to the island. Aww. And so it allows that person not to just see another side, oh, my friend, right? And so now you got the business owner introducing, you can see their personality, their mannerisms. You can see we're not perfect. We spit and slobber when we talk. We stumble over our words just like real people. We're not fake. And that keeps people on your website longer. And Google likes that. When they do a search and you click on it, the longer they're on. We call that in the industry stickiness. Oh. Kind of like gum on your shoe. It's like they're trampling around your website, but they're stuck and they're not leaving right away, like most traffic does. And then if that happens, if you click that, go to that site, click back to go back to the results and click on another, you start losing. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah. So these are the things that I bring to clients that I can consult them on once they got their messaging and then their strategy. When we develop a website, it's for 2 pairs of eyes, humans and Google. That's it. And everything else just magically works itself out. If Bing picks it up and Yahoo picks it up later, I don't care. They're like the rider on the back of a racehorse. They're an afterthought. Okay. Yeah. So So I meet them online.
Uh-huh.
We record our session.
I think that's great.
And then that way, because I throw so much information, as you
Yep.
know, if they say they're thirsty, here comes the fire hose.
Right.
We'll
And
get
how
over
you
that
can
very
dissect
quickly.
it, at
Yeah.
your own pace.
Well, there's a saying that the repetition is the mother of all learning.
Mhm.
And so sometimes you just need to play it back. And so I create a video, because some of the stuff in that session isn't just me yakking, it's me throwing up stuff on the screen,
Yeah.
sharing my screen with a particular assignment, homework assignment,
Uh-huh.
and I'm showing them how to navigate that.
Right.
Or I'm giving them examples of their competition and what their website's looking like, and making specific call outs that you can't see.
Okay.
So bottom line is, if that doesn't work for them, then they can take me, in their headset or their phone, and do their workout and just listen to the audio only. And so they further get to do that. If you're stuck in traffic, like some of us are commuters, you
Mhm.
can convert your car into a university on wheels.
Okay.
Just listen to this stuff. So it's great.
So you gave me this great little notes and I read it. It was actually very interesting. So I guess a good question, does your business need a digital marketing coach? How would that person know that they need one?
Well, that's a good question. So what typically happens is, we'll even take your example in your given industry. There's so much the average person doesn't realize that goes into a real estate transaction.
Right.
And so you had to go to school.
Yep.
And then you had to do some more school.
Yeah, it never ends.
And then some more.
Yeah.
And then you have it's the equivalent of continuing education credits and certifications and licenses and
Right.
regulations and things that you have to do. You have to dot all your I's and cross all your T's and things like that. You even use specialized language and tools in your industry that others don't. And so it's specific to your trade. But what happens a lot of time for most of us, whether they're the mechanic turning a wrench, or they're an attorney, or they're a doctor or something like that, they're great at what they do hands-on, and they have the knowledge base, the experience, and the specific tools. Just like dentists have cuspidors, which we used to call spittoons. They say, rinse, spit. So they have, their dental chairs that they call operatories, and they have hand pieces, which are the tools that they stick in your mouth to rinse out your mouth, like the hygienist does. And so everybody has these skill sets and uniforms and customary things in that given professional ecosystem. But many times they don't know how to market their business or themselves effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do? They just look at other sites, and a lot of those sites are nothing more than a template. They may do very little in changing that up. And so what can end up happening, for example, on a website, is it becomes punitive and works against you, because it's like, seen it, been there, bought the t-shirt, move on. And so that affects rankings, for example. But if you have the same conversation or dialogue that the other guy has, you become a commodity. And how many different brands of coffee are on the shelf at the local market? So what do you do to stand out?
Yeah.
You have to be a disruptor. You have to have a conversation that's already going on in your perfect customer's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we were talking about, we just had a baby and now we want to get back in our two-piece or whatever. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking about these things. We're thinking about our diet. We're thinking about the exercise. We're thinking about, I want to wear my skinny jeans again and stuff like that. And so everybody's talking about, hey, free enrollment. So they think that you're motivated purely by dollars, but they're not talking about the benefits. Like, hey, we're going to show you how to get in your skinny jeans in 12 easy steps and in 12 weeks. Now you just gave them something specific, and you gave a reasonable time range that they can commit to. But if everybody's just talking about dollars, the message gets lost. And you get this person for a moment, and it's like that first date. It's very crucial. Either you get them or you don't, and they move on. And so we have to make every impression count. So whether it be on a website or in a presentation, or even in this kind of modality, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to put our best foot forward, because we know people's time is very limited and precious, and we really need to drive those points home. So, of course, everybody needs a coach for something. But my specialty is going to be digital marketing. That is the realm that I've been speaking since 1999, when I started a startup with my best friend Phil Scott in Woodland Park. And within a year, we were the third most popular real estate website in the world. In fact, Alexa, not the Alexa you talk to, but back then Alexa was a separate, it still is, it's a separate thing from Amazon that tracks history and traffic and things like that. And so that's how we knew we were the third most popular real estate website on the planet, and we weren't even a name brand. So you can imagine my face watching $10 million of ad spend from Remax, seeing that pretty little balloon taking off on my big screen TV, and going, I didn't have to pay for all that. And I'm still outranking them in traffic. And what it was I'll tell you, it might even pique your interest if you're interested, but it was basically a funnel gathering role for one exclusive real estate agent and their team. So who's their team? The mortgage lender, the appraiser, the home inspector, the home insurance agent, the home warranty person, the title company. They were all part of this person's team, and they had an exclusive market back then the size of about 150,000 population. And we helped build this network across the country with the premise that this agent would say, hey, listen, I'll help you make sure that there's no clouds on your title. I'll make sure that you don't overprice or underprice your property so that it's designed to move. But if, as a for sale by owner, but if at any time, and 80% of those people throw in the towel of being a FSBO within a couple weeks, that you at least give me a chance at a listing presentation. Fair enough? They said yes. And so we were pre-qualifying leads, through a capturing system on the phone for the mortgage company, because we would not let anybody in their house unless they were pre-approved.
That's good.
It's one thing to be pre-qualified, but pre-approved. We would also give them articles about how to stage their homes properly and things like that. And that's how we ranked. And we were postured for the 800-pound gorilla to buy us. And then the .com boom busted. So we had to sell our assets, and we all disbanded like the Beatles, and then we all started our own thing. But what a ride. I mean, there was nothing we could have done wrong. We saw this thing mushroom. We started, we formed inroads with other vendors that were actually driving around neighborhoods across the country for, leads. And then we would give those to our agent in that exclusive market, any for sale by owner leads, and offer the same service to them. And they'd have a free listing on our site. Before it was all done, we were actually bringing aggregates of a feed from yahoo.com of every real estate listing in every market that we had somebody in our network.
That's great.
It was crazy. So I'm not the guy that invented this stuff, but I was I was in that first class.
Yeah.
Because 1999 was a long time. It's 20 years now.
Don't say that.
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm getting
Like fine wine, right?
My 20-year reunion. I'm like, when did this happen? I'm only 23. For a very long time, I've been 23.
Yep.
So you offer a unique brand of coaching. Do you want to go ahead and explain?
Yeah, so again, it's mostly about marketing. So I have created some course curriculums on the first thing that is a prerequisite, just like if you go back to the university.
Mm-hmm.
My training is not easy, but it's not undoable either. You do have to apply some thought and take some time to sit down and really identify what you want to be when you grow up, right? What are you most passionate about? Just like we talked about in the tripod effect. Mm-hmm. What is marketable? What will people pay for? Can you tie those together so that you never have a bad day? Mm-hmm. Because you would do this for free. Like Billy Joel, he used to say, man, I'd do this for free if I could, but they pay me. I thought that was great. He would walk around with one credit card. He knew nothing about what his net worth was. If he wanted to eat, he went into a place and swiped the card. That was it. Yeah. Or back then it was
they take a picture.
Carbons. Yeah. So the marketing aspects that is really the premise is solely in the digital realm. Okay. I'm not saying that they can't ever pick up their phone or send a postcard, because those are the things. Listen, in this business, if everybody's zigging, you zag. Yep. And that's what creates your standout brand and being marketable and becoming that disruptor, right? Mm-hmm. So we incorporate those things, but the marketing 101 piece of this is like whatever potholes you have in your path from here to there that you've developed by making these mistakes, we're going back to fill those in and smooth it out. And then once you've established what your perfect customer is, and get that messaging right, and figure out what their demographics are, what their interests are, what is their biggest pain points, what is their biggest goals and aspirations that you can solve. And then create your promise, what you're able to offer them in an elevator pitch, if you will, right? Right. And then get tangible results. Prove it out, prove your proof of concept out, get social proof back in the form of testimonials, likes, things like that on social media. Yeah. And show them what you're about, and then watch what happens. And then after you've developed your messaging for your perfect client, you've got that, which is huge. Otherwise, you're chopping down the wrong jungle. If you remember Stephen R. Covey's 7 highly effective habits of effective. Yeah, the highest. The 7 habits of highly effective people. Uh-huh. Please edit that for content. There's so many books in my brain. He talked about how production would be chopping away at this stuff, and then leadership would climb to the highest mountain in the area and then say, stop. And they said, why? We're cutting stuff. And he says, wrong jungle. Oh, and they go, shut up, we're making progress. I think I heard something about that. So we don't want you going down the wrong jungle, which is why we want to identify who is your perfect ideal client, which is, if you take a composite of all these different things, they become what we call an avatar. Okay. Not blue people that look like cats that are 10 feet tall, but that's what they are. And then once you've established what the avatar is, then you can promote this message, which is the second curriculum that I have. Each one of these are 12 weeks. And every week you are given an assignment and we talk about it. And then when you're done with it, I get notification from you as a client and I go back and I review it. And then what I'm able to do is use tools that are kind of like walkie-talkies on the phone and say, hey, this is great. You're really digging into this. A couple things that I noticed that you might want to be thinking about is X and Y. Yeah. So go ahead and touch those up. And then when we meet again next week, we'll review it together, and then if you've gotten that, then we go, okay, we mark that one and done, and then let's go to the next piece. And it just is built on a foundation so that every step you take, by the time you get done with the 12 weeks, you're looking back and go, wow, look at this. And the best part, from a strategy level, you may not put your competitors out of business, but you can penetrate a big enough piece of the market that frustrates them. Think about the attorneys that advertise on television. They're like, oh, that Frank Azar. Every time I exhale, there's another, call me, I'm Frank, you know?
He's everywhere.
So Hoyser and Hoyser's got to deal with them. And the father-son team, McDivot's, and all of those guys, they take a piece of his market. He's probably real happy about what he's got, but they're never going to put him out of business. But they can take a chunk of that market. And that's my goal for my clients, that as long as they're ethical about how they represent themselves and really serve a need, I'm on board. And I'm going to be their amplifier. And I'm going to teach them how to do that where they can amplify themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then who can you help with coaching?
So it's a number of businesses can be helped. It's easier to answer who I can't help.
Okay.
So the highly regulated businesses like network marketing or multi-level marketing, as they're called, or insurance agencies, people that are in the investment realm of the financial sector.
Okay.
There's just so much tape. They actually assign a regulatory representative in their business. They actually have a guy that's in an office or a gal in the office, and people are, hey, can I say this on my website? No. And it's like ridiculous. It's kind of like the pendulum swung so far to one side that it's like laughable, and it's unfortunate, and those people are frustrated, so they have to just go down the traditional expensive Super Bowl $10 million per minute ad campaign, and that's how they get their word out. The other areas that I can't help is similar to those. If anybody besides me actually reads their terms and conditions of an internet web hosting business like GoDaddy, as an example, they're huge. There's certain things that the industry doesn't like to touch. And those are the pornography or the extreme hate out there, or the tobacco industry, things like that, because they're so afraid that this 13-year-old's going to be all of these things because they're on their, their computers and stuff. So I can't fight that good fight, unfortunately, and because they're segmented into a different location digitally. It's like a bad neighborhood versus a better neighborhood. That's all it is.
Okay.
So I don't typically, I can't, because it fights everything that I'm trying to do for them, and it would get shut down.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. And then what is your coaching style?
So my coaching style is best described, and I learned this because I'm a product of the product too. You have to understand that for every coach, that person has also had a mentor or mentors. And so the best one that I learned from was one of the clients I coached. And then so there was just this great chemistry and reciprocity. And he goes, it's a lot like you're a lighthouse. And then this is the story of the lighthouse versus the tugboat. So if you talk about what are their roles, they have the same objective, which is to bring a ship, which could be a client or their business, into safe harbor. Right. So what do? The role of the tugboat is that this ship has moored itself and it's got to be drugged back out. And so one of the limiting factors of the tugboat is it can only pull its weight. So if that ship is bigger than that, it needs more friends to try to undo this mistake that was made by not seeing the lighthouse. It also takes a lot of negative inertia to pull that in terms of energy, to pull that thing back out into water that it can navigate in again. So it's just a lot of work. And remember the old saying, an ounce of prevention equals a pound of cure, right? So that's kind of the pound of cure path.
Okay.
The lighthouse is got the same objective, to bring ships into safe passage. And the way that it does it is it lights up, even at night, it lights up through the fog and lights up all of the rocks in this area, right? So to prevent and to help guide the ship into safe passage. And it will do that for dozens, if not hundreds of ships every day. And it has the least amount of energy. All it's got to do is shine bright,
Right.
and shine it on the rocks and shine it where the water is, the path that they need to go to help guide them in. Now here's the caveat to all of that. The lighthouse can show them where the rocks are. That still doesn't necessarily prevent the ship from wrecking into it.
Exactly.
And that's because they can say, well, I do what I want. And it's like, okay. And so now we're just flashing the light on you going, you're going to need a few tugboats to pull you out.
Yeah.
And the problem with the energy associated with tugboats trying to pull them out is they end up having a short lifespan. So that coach burns out.
Sure.
Where this coach is like, this is your choices. And the great thing about a good coach is they were the hero in the battle. They have the battle scars to show it. They have spent lots of money over the years. They've had some great wins. They've had some significant losses. They know where that outer edge is that you will fall off the ledge if you go too far that way, and prevent you from making those same mistakes. They will compress time and save you tons of money that you would have thrown away at something, not knowing, man, if I had known that, I would have never done this, and help you recoup years and tens of thousands of dollars. And the great thing is they become a guide. Now, you can choose to do it yourself. And before coaches were obtainable to just about anybody that wants them now, you had to do all of your own investigative work. And so, like, you could pick what's the best diet to be on. If you go out to the internet, you're going to hear everything under the sun. And so where does that leave you at the end of the day? Which one is the right one? I don't know. I get frustrated. I get confused.
Overwhelmed.
And then, exactly. And then I don't do anything.
Right.
So game over. What was that about? Whereas you can have a coach who becomes a curator of the information that they've already learned, of the experience they've already practiced. They know what works and what doesn't because they got 20 years on this race than you do. And that's why you hire them, because they're like, we need to protect our assets.
Right.
We want to not be the usual statistic of a business that goes out of business within the first 5 years. We want not only to survive that, but we want to thrive and scale out, because we want to be able to write the check to these organizations like the Doctors Beyond Borders, right? They want to be able to do those things. They want to have a quality of life. They want to move into a better neighborhood, a better school district, a safer place for their kids to play at the park. All of these intangibles, we can make a decision about, hey, where do you want to get coffee, right? That's a little decision.
Right.
But if we want to make a decision that impacts things, we're going to pick, hopefully, our mates better, our partners better, because we're planning a life. And everything we decide on impacts and affects them for good, for better, or worse, right? So that's the great thing about having coaches.
Yeah, I think coaches are very important. And even when you're very successful, you still need a coach. So, so you have a call to action you'd like to tell everybody about.
You're
What
using
is
my
that?
speak now.
I took your words. I liked them.
So basically, one of the things when I help a client, I obviously need someone who's coachable. If we're just going to butt heads, it's like, why?
Well, yeah, there's no
Let
point.
me go help somebody else, because there's a finite amount of time in a given day
Right.
and in a given work week. And then I still need to be the grandfather, the dad, the husband, the pet owner, the rest of the time. So what we what I do is I only work once I take on a client, assuming that the chemistry is there. I will not take on a client in an industry that I'm already helping another client with.
Okay.
So there will not be
good. No
competition.
competing.
Yeah. So unlike local businesses that advertise, and you'll hear them advertising multiple mortgage companies or multiple attorneys, I will never do that, because I want to give my best stuff to one person in that industry at a local level. Now, if you're on a global level, that's different, and I don't really think that's competition, because you're in a market that only wants to support local business,
Right.
and the others don't care about that. So I can help technically two in the same industry, but one's at a global level, the other's at a local level. And then if we got someone in Denver that wants to do it, they're not part of your market. It's not going to hurt them for me to guide them as well.
Yep.
So.
No, I think that's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to educate us, and we'll go do a tour of all your cool equipment here in a minute. But we'll definitely get Mike's information in the description below, so you can reach out to him for your digital coaching needs. And if you would like to be featured, just make a comment below and I'll get in touch with you as well. Remember who to call for all of your fabulous real estate and digital coaching needs. Make it a fabulous day.